Hi, everybody. My name is Bill, and today we are going to talk about digital storytelling, what that is, how you can use it in your classroom, and how you can use it to support individual and collaborative learning. So, first, what is digital storytelling? It's a method in where students or teachers can use digital technology to tell a story or teach a lesson. It's a way to get a point across. It's a way to have students interact with each other, like I'll get into a little bit later. Um, it can come in many forms. First, it can be an animation. If you or your students are able to animate videos or really excel in that area, they can use an animation to tell a story. It can be videos put together, clipped together to tell a story or a narrative, or it can combine all those with a screencast as well. Why should you use digital storytelling in your classroom? It's fun and interactive and educational. First, it's fun. It's a change from the traditional lecture classwork style of teaching. It allows you to maybe introduce a subject, talk about it, and lecture on it, but then also allows students to prove what they know in a different way. They aren't writing papers and papers and papers or paragraphs or short answers or quizzes and tests. They get to prove what they know in maybe a fun, different, unique way from the traditional style, like I said. And that makes it more interactive. They're creating something. They're not just writing a sentence or writing a paper. Those have their places, sure, but this is more interactive and maybe a little more fun. And most importantly, and the most important part of all is it's educational. It's not a throwaway activity. They are reinforcing what they know. They need to include pertinent information. It's an educational activity when they're creating or watching a digital story. Why should you adopt it in your classroom? First, it can help students organize complex ideas. If they are telling the story of, let's say, the American Revolution, there's a lot that's involved there. There's a lot to remember. Creating a digital story, maybe they have to map out the important events in the American Revolution. They have to put together what they want to include, what they want to leave out, what they think the most important parts of the story they're trying to tell are. And therefore, it could help them organize things and maybe simplify things in that way. It's not looking at the entire picture and say, hey, tell me everything about it. They're putting it together piece by piece in an organized manner to then tell the story that they need to. And also, it helps them speak their own language, quote unquote. Some students maybe aren't really adept at writing a paper or an essay. Maybe they have test anxiety, and putting a big test in front of them about the American Revolution might help or hurt them in a way that is unfair. Again, those methods of instruction have their place. However, maybe those students are more creative, and it lets them flex their muscles in that way. It lets them use technology that maybe they're more used to, maybe that we're unfamiliar with. Maybe they know how to do something cool on the computers we don't know how to do. And so it lets them, again, speak their own language. And why should you adopt in your classroom? It's an immersive way to get your students to interact with the information they're creating. Like I said, maybe they're animating, maybe they're putting video clips together, but they're immersing themselves in the information. Instead of reading a book or listening to a lecture and then taking a quiz, they're tasked in creation for the most part, and that's more immersive in many cases. And it's also multi-sensory. If they're watching a screencast or a digital story rather, they are watching something, they're seeing it, they're hearing it, maybe they're taking notes if it's a flipped classroom scenario. But if they're creating, then they're watching what they're making. They are maybe animating, they are talking while they're narrating, they're creating on their own. And so it's more than just one way of instruction, like I said, and that helps align with UDL. Aligns in the following ways: multiple means of engagement. Students are able to choose their way of portraying what they know. So again, it's not just, hey, write this paper. answer these questions. They can choose. Maybe they're great animators. Maybe they love putting videos together. Maybe students these days are way more adept at technology than I ever was at that age, and so this lets them choose. Hey, you have to put this presentation together, or you have to tell this story, but you get to choose how you do it, and it gives them the power. Um, Multiple means of representation. Again, if they're watching a video, if I'm putting together a digital story, they get to see the big ideas and the big points. Well, they get to see it visually because it's a video. They hear it. Maybe they're taking notes as well, and so there's different ways of hearing those big ideas. And if they're creating, the same thing. They are animating or they're putting those ideas together on screen. They're narrating. They're writing it down. They get multiple ways the big ideas, quote unquote, are represented, and then multiple means of action and expression. Lets students know or prove to you what they know in different ways. Again, it's not just, hey, take this exam. They get to prove to you that they know the story or the information that's covered in a unique way, in a way that works for them, in a way that that hopefully gets the message across as well. Obviously helps individual learning and collaborative as well. I already brought up the flipped classroom method. If you put a story together, they are able to watch it at home, maybe at their own pace. Maybe you watch it in class, but they have access to it at home as well. More importantly, collaborative learning, though. Students are able to work together on a digital story. It doesn't always have to be individual. They can do it as a group. One thought that I had is if you have students that are maybe struggling at math and sciences, but are way more creative. If they're in a group where they're creating a digital story, maybe that's their opportunity to shine. They are the more creative one, possibly. Maybe they are the person in the group that in this circumstance they're excelling. They're not behind trying to figure out what to do. It lets them flex their muscles a little bit and can be very empowering. And obviously, if you're working as a group and you're creating something together and you're coming towards a common goal, it's going to create positive interaction. Um, Active engagement and learning. It's interaction in a unique way. Again, it's creating something together on using technology and on computers. Um, yep, and it's self motivating. It gives students the autonomy of choice. So again, they can create, like I talked about with UDL, they can create in a way that they want. As long as there are certain guidelines of parameters, they can choose how they portray their message. Maybe they, like I said, love to draw, love to animate. They have that choice, and it's way more self-motivating when you have the choice and the power. Um, and again, students get to speak their own language. They're telling you the information you need to hear, but they're telling you in a way that they think you need to hear. And as long as they're checking all those boxes and creating a full story, full rich story, if they can do it in their own creative way, then they're speaking their own language, and that's great. So my sources. I hope you learned a little bit about digital story.